with building Granicus in San Francisco, then moving to Phoenix and working with Coplex and now PrimeGov, what are some of the similarities and probably more importantly differences in company building in San Francisco and then not San Francisco?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one that everybody thinks about is cost, right? And I think the cost is a big deal, and it's a huge advantage out here. I would say the more noticeable differences for me, the first thing that I really noticed was the culture and immersion in the startup community. In San Francisco, just to give you an example, and I think you guys have heard me tell this story before, but like Saturday night, 10 p.m., I'm at a coffee shop working on my laptop in San Francisco. I'm surrounded by a bunch of other people with their startups trying to make their tech company work. And it's essentially cool, right? It's like, oh, awesome. What are you working on? I think anywhere else in the world, I mean, less maybe New York or some of these other places, it's like, oh man, you got to work Saturday night. Like you need a new job. And I think when I think back about focus and effort, the culture in the Bay Area just reinforces the work ethic, but also the belief, when you're working for stock options and you're in Phoenix and you've heard a lot more bust stories than success stories, you're kind of like, all right, like, why don't I just go get that? Why don't I go sell something else? Why don't I go sell real estate and make those nice commissions again? And when we start having the, Greg Scoresby, obviously they raised a bunch of money, Heidi Janing at WebPT with their exit. Uber had a huge office here. I think that was actually one of the biggest kind of momentum builders for the cultures. You had all these Uber people that are like, hey, we just kind of did it. I mean, it wasn't the founders and the very early team, but it was an early enough team that people made some money and saw how the Kool-Aid was made in a huge success. And I think that helps a little bit. So I think that part's interesting. I think the tech ecosystem here is certainly not as strong there, but I do like the sales and marketing DNA here. People in the Phoenix metro are in services and real estate a lot, and those are kind of hustle industries. Like I got to go out and make my money in either kind of commissions or tips or whatever, and I think that translates pretty well into tech sales. And so I'm bullish on our ability to be strong there. And then of course we've been training up on the lower tech skills. Started out with support and implementation, and then your junior developers, and now we're getting good senior developers and architects and technical founders starting to kind of pop up. And so I still think that resource is a little more scarce than maybe it should be. And then the last big one that probably could have gone first with the cost of living is obviously that access to capital. And the Bay Area is almost always frothy, right? Like you can say like, oh, it's frothy now. Like it's almost always frothy, and people can raise $15 million on an idea without a business based on their reputation or just the idea and the access to their network. I think outside of the Bay Area, then you've got to go get the proof, right? You got to go prove your model and show the traction, show the revenue growth, kind of lock up the team, those types of things, and then you can go raise money. So those would be the biggest differences that I've seen.
Nice.